And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IT Career in Australia live stream. And tonight's topic is how to attract top tech talent to your company. Thank you for finding some time this evening to join our live discussion. Please make sure to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversations with your questions and comments. If you're new to my live show, I'm Jana Martins. I'm currently working in IT consultancy myself, so I'm passionate about learning more about present and the future of tech industry, and also share my findings here with you on this YouTube channel. So tonight, again, we're going to talk about how to attract top tech talent to your company. And Vinny is going to share his experience, his challenges, and his strategy when it comes to high tech talent attraction. So it's pretty relevant topic in today's world. We all probably notice a bit of a shortage in the talent in the market. So make sure to share this video with those who need to hear this. So, and before I'll pass it over to Vinny to introduce himself, just wanted to remind you that we're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you want to watch the replay, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. And I'm going live there every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, with various experts from my network. And we're talking about all the things around IT career, job search, and specifics of IT industry in Australia. Also, I always encourage you to join my meetup group to make sure you get notifications about upcoming discussions. And as usual, I always encourage you to ask as many questions as you want. We'll try to answer majority of your questions live. So just stay on the topic, but we'll try to answer your questions from all of the platforms. So it doesn't matter where you're watching us tonight. And always, I recommend you use these live streams not only as your opportunity to learn some new information, but also to network with people in the industry. And yes, please, if you haven't introduced yourself in the comments, do this now so we know who's here with us tonight. That's enough of me. I'm going to pass to Vinny to introduce himself.
Hey, thanks, Jana. That's it. It's great to be here. So thanks for the invite. Look, a little about myself. My name is Vinny Lawrenson-Woods. Originally from the UK. I've been in Australia now for 9 years. So I'm a software engineer by trade, self-taught. I've worked in the US, the UK, and now in Australia. And since moving to Sydney in 2013, I've led teams at Vodafone, Qantas, Atlassian, Record Point, and now Prezi. So I'm currently the VP of product engineering here at Prezi. So that effectively means I'm looking after the engineering and delivery space. And we've got a team of just shy of 80. Since I joined just shy of 18 months ago, we had 25. So we've more than tripled our team in that time. So I know a little bit about the challenges of finding people, but we've done exceptionally well. But yeah, thanks, Jana.
That's impressive. From 25 to 80 in the current market. So you definitely have some great insights for us tonight. So we have a few people saying hi. Love is here.
Hey,
here we go. We just was talking about you. Lovey been on my live stream before, like about half a year ago. So that's the power of networking and communication. It's a small IT industry. Here we go. So thank you for joining us tonight. And Douglas is here as well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for saying hi. And guys, if you haven't said hi, please do so, because we wanna know that you're here. So okay, Vinny, let's I guess get into it. My first question is more about you before we move into the topic itself. I guess
sure.
You have your software engineering background. You're working at the moment as a VP of engineering, leading the teams. Why are you talking about the talent attraction today?
Look, it's kind of become a bit of a passion of mine. I mean, obviously, working in software engineering, it's a challenging but very rewarding kind of career, I'd say. We have a lot of opportunities, which is fantastic. But sometimes it's like, the um, how to work within that world, find the role that's right for you. It's challenging. Sometimes the amount of choice can be challenging in itself. When we're interviewing people, sometimes they have 3 or 4 offers on the table, and I got really curious around what is it that about an organization a person wants to go to, and it's obviously very key to what I do. But it's actually it's an intellectual curiosity as well to kind of go, well, what drives people? It's kind of one of the reasons I went into leadership. It's like, I'm really interested in people and what their motivations are. So it's kind of it's my day job, but it's also like I'm really fascinated to kind of what the motivations of people are.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think you can spend like years in recruitment and still will be like, why this person did that?
Yeah.
Why this person choose this job? Abdul is here.
Abdul.
Hi, Vinny. Listen, all the Prezi team is here today. Here we go. So, there's definitely loyalty to the brand. So the people's
Absolutely.
here. Hello, Vinny. Actually, LinkedIn user, you have to put your name, but probably we're not connected on LinkedIn. That's why your name is not popping up in the comments. So if you say your name, that would be great. Okay, so I think we already, kind of touch on this, the recruitment changing, the candidate markets is changing. So it's basically not as easy to find the great talent these days, especially in the IT industry. So I think you have a few points there and a few statistics to share as well.
Yeah, look, it's if it wasn't challenging enough, I think kind of COVID come along, and one of the really interesting thing about COVID is that it kind of drove the demand for more digital platforms. People were ordering food from home, they were doing a lot of things online, so the actual demand for technology increased. There was a global shortage of technical talent anyway before then, so that kind of so more technology demand, less and less people, and then to throw it all in with Australia, for example, immigration got slashed as well. So it was kind of perfect storm of creating even a kind of worse scenario in the industry. And that's been a challenge to deal with. It's so I think the key thing, and when I talk to people about building teams, is the first thing you've got to recognize it's not easy. If you want to build the right team in the right way, with all the challenges of recruitment, it's like obviously you've got some outcomes you need to get to. You need to find the right skills. You need to find the right people for your team. You've got to consider the culture of your organization. Every person that joins a team impacts that team, good or bad, and you've got to consider that. You've got to think about the growth of the person as well as growing the team. So there's a lot of things that you've got to consider. So I think it's just really calling out that these things are not simple. It's not a simple challenge. But what I want to talk about tonight is that I think there are some things that you can do to definitely alleviate some of them pain points.
Definitely, and I think I guess that's the reason why we're talking why recruitment is hard. It's not about putting the job on sick anymore, getting like 30 candidates and choosing 2 from it. It's a bit of a vice versa process. It's so as you mentioned in these statistics, there's 49 of candidates who accepted a job offer in 2021 had at least 3 offers to consider. So obviously, the candidates now have a free job offers, and it's not you have like 3 great candidates who you can choose from. So it's definitely like a reverse statistic at the moment.
Yeah, I look and here at Prezi, I've dealt with that in that time where we're actually talking to someone and they've got 2 other great offers, and it's kind of go, well, how do we differentiate ourselves? And and make sure that they come to us. You know, what can we offer them? And I guess it's a change of I guess a different way of viewing candidates maybe than was in the past, and that maybe other organizations are not doing. So it's less about you asking a candidate to prove themselves for your organization. You're there kind of proving that your organization is right for them.
The table turn, yes.
Yeah.
So and I guess there's a few elements that goes into that recruitment process and attracting talent. It's not only about that interview or job the job ad. So there's a way more things going into it. And I guess so what the things that you noticed that you had to change when you attracting the talent?
And I guess I just learned this, through trial and error over the years. But I think sometimes it's kind of going, you've got to start at the end in some ways, that your current team and every person that you hire, it's kind of thinking you are hiring your recruitment team. We're hiring an engineering team, but actually they are your recruiters. We rely on so much, referrals, networks, which we've talked about. How do people get their brand in? The Atlassians and the Canva and places like that didn't build their brands just by putting ads out there. That was word of mouth through engineers and through meetups and through these types of things, LinkedIn Lives, and the word gets out, and then people start going, oh, I like the sound of what they're doing and I'd like to be involved. And so it's kind of even before you even think about putting the role out into the to recruit, it's kind of going, well, first of all, when you bring somebody into your organization, you've got to be able to get your pieces in place before they arrive. Because the reality, and it's happened here at Prezi, because we've scaled so quickly, I can't just do the interview. It's that spread across the team. So if you bring somebody into the team who's disengaged, they're not going to be a great interviewer because they're also selling the role. So it's kind of, you need to make sure that everything that you've talked about to a candidate when they arrived, you live up to that, because they're going to be very much front of house with the next candidate, telling them exactly what life is here at Prezi. So, it's actually, you've got to do a lot of work before you even get to that state. But I think on top of that, it's like you have to be organized. So you've got to understand your recruitment strategy. And what I mean by that is like understanding the type of person, the people that you need for your organization, what you're trying to achieve, what that process looks like. When I arrived, the actual amount of time it took to kind of speak to a candidate, or maybe, that initial conversation to signing a contract was quite a long time, a lot longer than I would like. But now we're down to around a week from initial conversation to a signed contract. And we find that super important. Because with people with 3 offers on the table, they're not going to stick around for a long time. And I think, and the only way you could get down to that amount of time, if it's 5 days or 7 days, is you have to have everything in place. You need to know how you're doing it, what the process is. Just a little bit of communication confusion can add days to the process. So,
and get lost. The documents get lost in the way.
Easy,
the HR person doesn't even know that this position is open, and then
so it's kind of, and it's also the relationships you have. So here at Prezi, our talent team are amazing. They're proper partners, and they have to be able to be, to get that level of efficiency and alignment, that we have to really, we talk a lot, we constantly, think about how we're doing. So obviously they're often the very first person who'll talk to a candidate, and then we've got to make sure that process is consistent. So there's nothing worse for a candidate when you're being told one thing and then it's contradicted further down the line. So I think it's super important that we have that consistency, and that's the kind of the logistics, I guess, is that piece. But the strategy is also knowing what sort of team you want. I know it sounds a really simple thing, but it's amazing how many organizations don't know what they want. So, my experience in corporates, for example, is like you'd be waiting around for weeks and weeks for budget approvals, and then it would happen, and then it was like, we need 20 people yesterday, and then everyone jumps on it, and there's confusion, and people just dive into it, and there's no real thought behind it, and then you end up with a misaligned kind of message, and maybe not hiring the right people for what you're trying to do. So it's really
just because you have a budget.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's really key. You need to stay strong. You need to stay strong, whatever organization is, to say, this is what we're looking for and this is why. And I promise you, if we stick to this, we'll get the outcomes that we want. So, try not to feel the pressure that you need to move quicker than you are. It's about, because I think my personal, I guess, opinion is a bad hire is worse than no hire. So I think you've got to really think, is this person right for your organization? Like I said before, every person who joins your organization changes your organization, good or bad. So you've got to really consider what that change is, and you obviously want to look for a good change. So I think that's really important.
I love this point, Vinny, and I think that point that you mentioned from the beginning, that your current team is your biggest recruiters. I think that's a really powerful point, and we forget about it quite often, because, and I'm sure if I'll ask people who's on the call at the moment, actually there's a few people saying hi to us. Sneha here, and Nadia's here.
Hey.
Another LinkedIn user here, so a lot of fans here, Vinny. So, and I'm sure, like, if I'll ask audience, like right now, did they ever join the company just because someone else joined that company? I'm sure it will be like raise of hands there. Like I think we all been there. Like someone we worked before, moved to some company. You heard some good rumors about it. They say, look, we have, more positions, come join us. And that's like the best selling point always. And like, I'm sure, like, guys, if you had that, maybe share it in the comments as well, because I'm sure like people who are listening to us have this example in their life. Like it happens in any industry, like someone finds something great. They want to, build their team. They grab people they work with. Happens all the time. And exactly what you said, like, when you make a new hire, they need to reflect your brand. They need to be the people who will be able to interview and be passionate about the company itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that probably leads me to another thing as well. It's you need to live up to your commitments and your promises. Interviews are great places to set expectations, but also kind of talk about what you do. We try and be as transparent here at Prezi as possible. You obviously can't talk about everything, but we're really upfront of where we are. What the challenges are, what the opportunities are. But that really resonates when someone arrives, because it's not a complete surprise, or you sold me this and it's not that, or so if we're talking about innovation time, we have to work on your own projects, or we talk about some of the training things that are available, or that we're bringing through. So it's kind of, how do we make sure that we live up to what we talk about in the interview, because that quickly can disengage people as well. So therefore, you've got to, I guess, make sure that you're looking after your existing team as well as thinking about the new people that are going to join as well.
Perfect. I just saw the meme on LinkedIn recently. Someone posted it, saying on the interview, the company representative saying, "Oh, we have an unlimited leave here," and the candidate saying, "Oh, that doesn't mean that I can have every Friday off." And silence. Yeah. So
Nice try.
talking about the expectations.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, it can be you put something in which you think, oh, this will be a great attractor, but it could be a biggest demotivator if you can't live up to that. So you've got to be really careful. It's about being, you know, realistic. But I've found through the interview, if you're honest and you talk about the challenges, and in some ways, you know, it's great talking to engineers because they don't really want to come to a place where everything is done and dusted and we're just babysitting. You know, we, we've moved into multiple regions across the world. We want to scale. We want to, we want to grow. We want to build resilient platforms. That's what people get excited about. They want to be able to come in and actually build something that they can say, I did that, and we took it from here and went to there. That's the kind of the core of being an engineer, solving big problems. So so that's the exciting thing about joining Prezi, because we're growing in so many different directions. There's so many opportunities to do really interesting things.
So you have a lot of problems.
A lot of opportunities.
A lot of problems to solve. And I think you're also mentioning here, we're talking about, I guess, interview at the moment, how important it is. And so you have this point here, sell the role. And I know that, a lot of technical people, they sometimes, then you tell them like, oh, you need to sell the role. They feel a bit uncomfortable about it. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, like I'm a tech person. I don't want to sell anything. So how are you like overcoming it at, the Prezi, or like, yourself, maybe did you need to overcome it yourself in a way?
Yeah, I think the way we've approached it, and again, this is just, I think I've learned from being in good and bad interviews myself over the years, and seeing how organizations work. So one of the key, I think, differences we do here at Prezi than maybe I've seen in a lot of places previously, you speak to a candidate, you ask them a lot of questions about their skills, what you do in this scenario, what's this, they're very kind of, tell me of an example when you had to do X. It doesn't really set up the conversation for building a relationship. We have a very limited time to get to know a person before we bring them into the organization. And I think personally, it's an opportunity to get to know that person. And it's also, you're setting expectations about this is the role, this is the reality, and this is what we're looking from you. Be really clear about that. But really what we're actually doing is we're looking for alignment. We're looking to say, this is what we're looking for, and I want to know what you're looking for. And then if they match, perfect. And so when I say sell a role, it's not that we've got to put our salesman hat on and give all the sales talk. It's very much by leaning into understanding the needs and of the candidate, like what sets you up for success, what's the ideal workplace for you, what gets you excited, what gets you out of bed in the morning. Asking these sort of questions allows the candidate to talk about what they're passionate about, and once they start to talk about what you're passionate about, and they say, oh, I'm passionate about doing this, I want to do this, I love doing this, we can then say, oh, well, we're doing that over there, we're starting that over there, this would be a great team for you over there. So it naturally becomes, by them sharing what they're passionate about, we can talk about the things we're doing which kind of align with that. So effectively we're saying, I love that you're passionate about that, we've got an opportunity there, I think you'd be fantastic in. And it becomes just it's less of just selling the idea conceptually. It's actually saying, we've got the space for you, and I think you'd be brilliant for it. And, and then you get a sense of the person and what motivates them. What are their values? what gives them the meaning, if you like, why do they do what they do? And once you can learn all them, you actually get to know the person, not just the answers to very standard questions, and it's great to watch people just get caught up in the moment and talk about what they're excited about. And I think that's the key. So it's selling to them in the sense that you're really getting to understand them. And look, if they say we're really excited about doing X and we don't do it, we'll say, look, we don't do it, and that's okay. Because I think just because we need people doesn't mean that every person is right for your organization. So I think just having that conversation can clear a lot of that.
I think that the dynamics of the interview is probably changing in majority of companies now. It's not anymore this kind of question and answers where there is a right or wrong answer. It's not about that. Like, sometimes, and I think it also comes to candidates as well. So then candidates come to interviews, they don't need to come to interview with the, mindset that they need to answer right or like find the right answer. It's about coming to interview and, give the answers that they actually like, think and want to do. Yeah, that you just mentioned. Yes. Things that they're excited about, things that the problems that they're looking forward to solve, and find this alignment. And so I think the times and the people have been trying to find this like a exact right answer for this exact role is gone, and it's not the best way to I guess to hire people for the particular role, just to trying to get these right answers.
No, it's true, and I think hopefully it is changing, but unfortunately it still seems to be out there, because we talk to a lot of candidates, and it's it'd be some of the interview experiences people have shared is quite scary even today. So it's like I said, I hope it is I hope it is changing. But that's it. You've got to make the change. We decided on a way to move forward, and we found it really successful. And when a candidate has 3 offers in front of them, for example, the more than often they're picking Prezi, and I think that is testament to we are doing something right. So we're getting them excited about what we're doing and how they can contribute to that.
We have some comment from Jason and some questions. I've seen a lot of pushback online on the non-job related questions. So recently I saw someone say that the question, tell me about the last boom you read, was a bad question because it can open up protected class issue. How would you navigate things like that when picking questions?
Yeah, is that? I'm assuming the question is the last book you've read.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Boom, like boom. Book, yes, book.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not necessarily asking questions in that way. I guess that's what I'm saying is we're not there to actually go. Especially the non-work related, because I get, when I hear stories like that, I get a little bit frustrated. It's kind of it's because you're getting into potentially a value judgment about that person. Do you like the kind of things they do? This is something. Does that actually add to what they're going to contribute to your organization? I'd argue probably not. We've all got better things to do than interviews are stressful for candidates. I think when I hear of people being put under extra stress for no particular reason, I don't think that's a good thing. Like I said, I'm a software engineer. I have a software engineering background. I've been in a lot of interviews, so I've faced a lot of this firsthand, and I guess that's guided me into terms of what is useful, I think, to learn. And I think comes to me, it's like we're learning about the person. When I think about growing teams, I don't think about growing a set of skills. It's a group of human beings that you're bringing together. and you've got to think like that, and how people work together, how they collaborate, how they inspire each other, how they learn from each other. You know, people who are curious, people who are kind of learners, and you know, they want to change, they want to make change. They're proactive. You know, we're looking for these kind of things that will come out of when they talk about what they're passionate about. So if they want to talk about what they've been all reading all these tech books, or they've been reading all these books, and they get to know the person a little bit more around that, that's where I think it can be really valuable.
But you wouldn't ask that question, like you wouldn't ask, something not work related. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of this like fine line. I guess you want to know like personality, but you don't want to ask something, too personal and not work related. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I guess I guess if in the interview, it's probably because it's structured a little bit different. I'll say to a candidate that, I want it to be conversational. I want it to be, let's just get to know each other. And really, what I actually put the onus on the candidate to say, just fire me with a lot of questions. Just tell me, you ask what you need from Prezi, because the main thing is that we've got to make sure you're happy with what we're doing. So really, it's the candidate asking those questions. It's probably the other way around. So I think there's probably very little questions I would ask, or when other people do the interviews. It's really allowing the candidate to really dig deep into what Prezi is about. And then it's learning from what they're asking and thinking about. So it's their questions and their descriptions of the things they care about, or the reaction when you say you're doing certain things in response to their questions. I guess it's a little nuanced in terms of how the structure is. So it's less about the interviewer asking questions, but allowing the candidate to ask you questions and learning from that.
And that makes a lot of sense, Vinny, because we can gain so much information from the person by the questions they ask. And that's true, and then basically based on the question they ask, you can also understand their technical knowledge and their understanding of how they see the Prezi as well, and how they see what you do. And you probably even can gain a bit of how interested they are, because if they don't have any questions, they might don't even like open your website.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just, skim through the job description and, might not even like know what you guys doing.
Yeah.
Where like,
exactly.
If you open the conversation, that gives them that opportunity to actually showcase exactly what they want, and showcase what they've done before, and what problems they want to solve.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's we're it's part of selling the role, and it's part of making sure there's alignment and it's the right person for the team. Make sure we're the right team for them. And that's before we've done any sort of technical test, if you like. This is more about finding alignment, just to understand: are we going to help each other, essentially? And in a sense, that's what it is.
Paul has a question. Do you prefer asking technical questions or say a take-home exercise?
We offer a choice. You can do a take-home test. We also do pair programming, which I'll talk about in a little bit, because I think it's my personal preference. We also can look at someone's, repos, repositories. We've done that before, where someone's shared what they work on. So we try to be flexible. So it's kind of, again, understanding that different people work differently. Knowing that someone could be interviewing for 3 or 4 roles, they don't want a 3 or 4 take-home test and just ruin their whole weekend. So and people will prioritize. They may say, no, I'm going to do these 2 and that. So it's taking that into consideration. So I think so it is given that option. I guess it's understanding people are individuals, and that you need to adjust the process for the person and be open for that. Because I guess, go back to the example before about the corporates, and we need to get 20 people in yesterday. then because everyone's just jumping on that, you're kind of pushing everyone through the same funnel without exception. And the real danger for that is you get very little diversity in your team, because if you push everyone through the same funnel, then you're going to get the same people out the other end. So it's about being even though obviously we had a lot of people to recruit, we still tried to be flexible. Because I guess one of the shifts, and this is probably an important one we've not talked about, is prioritizing recruitment. I know it sounds really obvious, but often it's kind of, okay, we need to do this, and we try to squeeze it in the middle of everything else,
Yep.
So actually prioritizing recruitment was key, and that allows you to be able to adjust to the individual. And I think people appreciated that, and that's probably one of the reasons why maybe they've decided to choose Prezi over some other organizations. Sorry, I know it's a long-winded answer, but to go back to the technical test. So one of our strategies for recruitment is we're tech agnostic. Our current stack, we have a Python backend and we have Rescript and TypeScript on the front end. We use some Node TypeScript. We do certain things, but when we interview people, we're looking for great engineers. So we've had people who've joined us who've got a Java background or a Golang background. We're very upfront about what they'll be working on and what the potential opportunities are, but we're not tying it down to the tech itself. And so this ties in when you want to do a tech test and things. It gets, obviously you can write tech tests which are a little bit agnostic. But what I prefer, and I think the engineers prefer in general, is pair programming. So we put some time aside where a couple of engineers from Prezi will work through a problem with a candidate. And I've also heard horror stories about pair programming, so we're very careful how we've done that as well. Again, it's allowing the candidate to get to know the team they will likely be working with. So it's the understanding the talent that's already here at Prezi, and they can have conversations and some, deep conversations, technical ones, and get to know our tech stack. But I think the key thing is we kind of say, we're not saying it's a really difficult problem. It's more like, your kind of day job type of problem that you would work on with the team. We encourage them to ask questions, even if you don't know the syntax. Ask the engineers, check on Google, and do that, because and we say this in the original, the pair programming is not a memory test. We're not judging you for can't remember the syntax of a particular thing. What we're trying to understand is how you solve the problem and how that communication happens with the team. And we found that really powerful, and that's where we've got a lot of our great feedback, is that people are sending emails afterwards and saying, that's the best process I've been through. And that's kind of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I think Catherine saying that's a great idea, Vinny, music to my ears. And I think that's few really powerful points, Vinny, that you mentioned, and giving people choice as well. I think it's a great approach as well. And we all know that different people might react differently in different situations. Some people might find it really stressful to do pair programming because they feel too much pressure. And for some people, it might be easier just to, take home exercise and spend some time, where other people feel like, I don't want to ruin my weekend by doing take home exercise. Let's just book it in and do pair programming. And we all know that we all work differently. And it's exactly to your point, you're looking for people who, great engineers, great fit for your team, and they might have a different working style. I guess depends what you're looking for at the moment for your team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's super important. And I think it comes back to the strategy, understanding the type of person. Like, we go tech agnostic. We kind of, I guess, some of our key points is that when we share as a team how we approach this is we talk about it in terms of aptitude and attitude. So attitude is super important. You know, the curiosity, the kind of the passion, the proactiveness, the drive, all of these things. And then I guess the aptitude is that, you know, they can learn and they can pick up new skills and they're willing to do that. You know, we also kind of move towards a full stack mindset. And what that means, it's acknowledging people have their preferences. They prefer working on front end technology, back end, cloud, whatever that might be. But it's also setting the expectations to say, you know, if you're in a squad and, you know, you're working on, you know, generally working on back end stuff, but the demand for front end stuff, you know, be happy if you jump in and help out. We're not expecting you to be, you know, they have the depth of knowledge of maybe some other people, but what we want is an opportunity to uplift your skills. So one thing I actually do say this a lot in interviews is one of my key drivers when employing someone is I want them to be a better engineer when they leave Prezi. So, and that's a win for everyone as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, if you say something like this to the candidate, it's, I guess, it's really powerful because it makes them about them as well. So,
yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, we all know that all we care the most is ourselves. So
yeah.
No matter what sort of communication you're having, you need to make it all about other person. So, and that's, you know, and it's exactly, I guess, your strategy. And it seems like you guys doing great implementing it with your interviews. We have a quick question from Jason. It's a little bit off the topic, but maybe Vinny, you can give a brief answer to that. He's asking, is the pair programming an org-wide practice at Prezi?
It's not mandated, but different teams and different individuals, some choose to do it, some don't. So it's it's an individual choice. You find a lot with new starters, there's a lot of pair programming and, you know, helping them on board and that type of thing. We have, I'm trying to think of the name now, one of the squads have basically a huddle where 4 of them work together. So it's like not quite paired, it's 2 pairs, but, you know, so they actually work together, and even when they're remote, they'll kind of all connect together and just effectively like sitting across from each other and talking and working on things. So personally, I'm not a fan of mandating things like pair programming. There's a value to it, but again, it comes down to what we were saying before about individuals and how best they work. I personally like pair programming, but it's very tiring. So, you know, some organizations, you know, say that's the way it is and you work your full day like that. I can see the advantages, but there's also disadvantages. So, you know, the way I look at it, we work with professionals. We are professionals. We're hired for our skills and generally paid well for them. So therefore, I want to trust that they know how they best work. And you know, the last thing I want is someone to tell me how I should work. So I would never do that to someone else.
Makes sense. Paul has a question as well, quite relevant, I guess, to the interview process for us. What weight do you put on education, say applicants having degrees, tech certification, etc.? So yeah, how important it is when, you know, you interview people?
So it probably depends on what stage. First thing I've done in many organizations, is it's a kind of a bugbear of mine, is I get hold of the job description, and the first thing I do is take 2 things off a job description when they're generally there, is education and number of years experience. I hate them 2 lines because they're meaningless. Because so many people get into engineering from so many different places. Some are self-taught, some have gone through uni, some have done boot camps, lots of different things. So it's the first thing is, in terms of when you're advertising a role, it's the first thing I take out of a JD.
And I think you have this point here that like I've just kind of wanted to mention as well, that, you know, job description should encourage candidates to apply, no limit them. And I think that's a really common mistake a lot of companies make when they just, you know, chuck everything in a job description.
Yeah, you know, I know as I was getting ready for this conversation, I just had a quick look on LinkedIn, and one of the roles I came through, I seen yesterday, 29 bullet points on it. And I was like, and you know, and this comes into other things like gender diversity. It's well documented that if you have that many bullet points, you know, a male candidate will, you know, maybe hit 8 or 9 of them and would apply. And a female candidate, if they hit 25 of them, wouldn't apply. So, you know, and we've got to really be conscious about that. And that's because, again, you know, it's just an invitation to get people through the door. So I don't believe in putting too many barriers up to that first step.
Yeah. I guess that's back to this, you know, education and certification. That I guess something that you,
So I guess in terms of that initial step, that's something that basically done. But again, it's not when you get to know people. Some people are more academic than others. You know, we have a doctor in the house in Prezi who did his PhD recently. You know, so we have some academics, some not so academic, like myself. So I think, you know, it comes down to understanding the drivers and then people. So it's not necessarily, oh, you've got 15 certifications in this particular platform. That's good, but doesn't tell me if they're going to be good for the team. You know, so I think it's about that balance. It's understanding, okay, they may have done these things and because, you know, that academic side is something they're passionate about, and that's great. And we get a lot of value from that. But it's also, it's not, I wouldn't say I would weight somebody with a lot of certifications over somebody that wasn't. I'd be really interested in what they do and what they've done and what their portfolio is and what type of work they've done.
Yeah, definitely. Vinny, we coming to 47 minutes into our, you know, live stream. Time just flies, you know,
it really does.
when you're having fun. So I think, you know, we have one more question from Jason that we're going to take, and then I guess we're going to summarize, you know, tonight's discussion.
Sure.
So the question is, how does a Prezi hire? Do teams in the organization get the budget and they used to go out and hire when they think they need
it? Yes, I mean, I think, you know, this is probably the same for, I'd say, pretty much all organizations. You know, one is you've got to look at the need, what you're trying to do. You've got to make sure there is a budget available. You know, that's just kind of common sense, because you can't, you know, keep on spending more than you're earning. But we have a pretty good process here where we will talk about what we need. We kind of need to, you know, show why we need it, you know, like show for examples, like how we're using the rest of the team and making sure that we're covering everything, but also that long-term view of, okay, we know this is coming next quarter, the quarter after. We know engineers take a little bit of time to ramp up and get to know the systems and stuff. So basically we're just being encouraged to kind of think about, you know, we don't want to just react and say, okay, we need somebody today. You know, it's actually then thinking about what's over the line. And if there's not a budget there, because obviously when we set budgets for the financial year, and that covers what we know at the time. So then anything that we want above and beyond that, it's just a process to actually, you know, validate the thinking and then see if there is available budget from somewhere else, you know, as the year goes through. So I'd say it's a pretty good system. We've constantly been hiring, so we've not had maybe the restrictions of some other organizations. Our growth has been pretty phenomenal, and that's kind of I think the company's tripled in size since I've arrived, I think, as well. So it's kind of, we moved into new regions like the US and the UK, and they're continuing to grow. So it's just going to keep on growing. So it's not something I think we've had too much to kind of be concerned about. So I think it's more about making sure we're hiring the right people at the right time, and how we can do that.
And definitely, I think a lot of companies these days, they can definitely create positions when they see someone like a really good candidate.
Yeah.
If there is someone a great match, majority of companies these days, they won't lose the chance to hire this person.
Yeah. And look, I've had them conversation with senior leaders here where we've interviewed somebody and they've gone, and it may be like, oh, I'm not sure we got a role for them right now based on when you learn. And they've asked that very question, but if we had a role for them, would you keep them? And it'd be absolutely. And they said, well, let's see how we can do that. So there's a lot of openness to that, understanding that talent is hard to come by. And if you find a great person, then how can we adjust to accommodate? And on that, I think I'm very aware that with people, if you find a great person, they will find their own way and carve their own space out in an organization for the benefit of the organization. It's not always finding an exact match for a particular position. We're hiring for the capability, and a lot of people can do a lot more than what their job title says. So it's actually knowing that you bring the right person in, trust them, and that's when amazing things happen, because they will take you in a direction maybe you didn't even think you needed to go in, and that's what you got to be open for as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Vinny, I'm just cautious about the time. We already passed 50 minutes. I know we have the hard stop at 6:30. So let's just try to summarize. There was a lot of great points that we discussed during this conversation. So I think if you give me 3 top tips for attracting best tech talent for a company, so what would it be?
Yeah, I think. Oh, that's a really good question. So three top tips for. I think
you can think about it, and while you're thinking about it, I'll announce the speaker for next week.
Okay, let's do that.
Next week, it's what's next week? It's Wednesday. We're already in November next week, so November 2nd of November. After Melbourne Cup, actually, Melbourne Cup is coming next week. Oh my God, time flies. So 2nd of November, we're gonna talk with Lachlan, and we're gonna talk about how to grow your career as an IT consultant. So obviously there is advantages and disadvantages of working in consultancy. And often as IT consultant, you can actually accelerate your career quicker because you have exposure to different projects. So we're going to talk with Lachlan about it next week, usual time, 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 2nd of November. And did I give you enough time to think about your 3 top tips?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think one thing I've realized over my career and being very much in growing teams and recruitment and kind of learning and creating a style, I guess, that we've talked about tonight. I recently come across something which it was pointed out to me actually, and I was really surprised when I was describing the process the way we interview at Prezi. They actually told me about positive psychology, which I had no insight at all. I'd never really heard the term, and so I looked into it, and it really resonated. So there's 3 parts of that really. So I'm gonna say this because we talked about, obviously it's very holistic, the recruitment piece, but I think really focusing on the individual and caring about what they're about. And there's three kind of tenets of the positive psychology that really caught my eye on it. That yeah, I can see that is focusing on a person's strengths, their values, and what gives them meaning. And I think if you follow that, so it's not about trying to find weakness or gaps, it's actually how you can, yeah, focus on your strengths and not your weaknesses. So I think that's super important. I think whatever job role or whatever career you're in, there's a tendency to look for gaps and how can we fix gaps. And I think there's a lot of possibilities in what happens when we just work with their strengths and push forward, and understand their motivations, understand what gives them meaning, what are their values. I think I've come to understand that values are actually capabilities, and I think that's super important.
That's a great example, Vinny. And I think that's definitely this parallel between positive psychology and recruitment, because, positive psychology, went alive, then psychologists realized that we not only need to, heal people who's below zero and have a mental illnesses, but we can work with people who already in the positives and we can make them better. And the positive psychology only started in like 1980s compared to other theories and other types of psychology. So, and I think that's exactly applicable to recruitment now. It's not about finding what's a person not good at, how he can fail that technical interview. It's about like, oh my God, like this person has this, and this, and maybe has gaps here, but that's the things that we can concentrate, and that might bring us way more to our team than this list of the 29 21 bullet points that we put in the job description. So no, definitely great analogy, and I think that's one top advice right here that sometimes we forget about, and we start actually digging for those weaknesses instead of let the person maybe show their shine and show their strengths.
No, and it's something I've recognized, and it's glaringly obvious for me now in the interviews, and it's kind of like the interview process is really trying to draw out the weaknesses and find the gaps, and where really when a person joins an organization, you're hoping to build on their strengths. So why don't we look at their strengths in the interview? It's kind of like it seems a strange thing to do.
Yep, makes sense. And Vinny, I usually ask people to share their favorite inspirational quote and then the stream. So should we stick this as an inspirational quote, or you have something else for us?
No. I'm happy with that. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Stick to this. Stick to this as the inspirational quote as well.
No, perfect.
And guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. There's definitely been a lot of questions, and I feel like everyone who watched us tonight want to go and work for Vinny now, or at least go have an interview with him. So that's for sure. So guys, if you enjoy today's discussion and you feel like you get some value, I always do encourage you, please like this video, share it with the people who need to hear this, share with your hiring managers, talent team, and everyone who need to know this information, these strategies, and advice. And I guess again, let's just reinforce it. Let's all focus on our strengths and other people's strengths, and not try to pick on their weaknesses. And people saying thank you, great live. And Jason's asking, are you hiring, Vinny?
Always.
Always, always, always. Oh, we forgot. We have 20 seconds. Vinny, what about the giveaway? Who are you going to have a virtual coffee with?
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna go for Catherine Palmer because she seems very aligned. So happy with that.
music to my ears. Here we go. Catherine, I'm going to connect you with Vinny so you can have a chat with him offline, have a virtual coffee with him offline. And actually, we're gonna have a live stream with Catherine in a few weeks as well. So here we go.
Cool.
Perfect. So great connection. So thank you guys again. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Vinny, for all your insights. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and definitely, learn a lot and reinforce a lot of points for myself as well. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Yana.
see everyone next Wednesday.
Okay, thanks everyone.